Hey guys, back for another video today. So we're going to talk about something that's, I haven't gone on social media in a while as far as posting, Awareness with Chris content. But I just wanted to have a question for you guys out there. How come it is that, black people keep talking the same stuff over and over and over again? Like, at some point you got to move on with your life. When I talk about that, that means, you're talking about issues in the black community, black relationships. How come black men prefer white women? How come there's no unity within the community? How come there's this, that? How come, violence? It's not our fault, it's a white man's fault. Same talking points, right? And there's nothing else of substance within the community. I would say almost more generally speaking. There's probably some niche content out there, but all of it's just gossip and drama. And then you wonder why you don't become successful as a group of people. I saw a podcast the other day where it was like African-American guy versus African guy. And they were talking and comparing cultures and stuff like that. And the African guy was just like, you gotta take ownership, take responsibility for your life, stop waiting for everybody else to do stuff for you. I wouldn't say the only community, but practically the only community here within the U.S. That has had plenty of time to get its shit together, but has not and never will. I think it's just time to move past that stuff, and people need to expand their horizons and stuff like that instead of talk about the same things over and over again. The stuff that I would give to, a young black man out there who's confused about life and saying, hey, what should I do? Where should I go? My best advice to you, sir, is to do the opposite of what everybody else out there is doing. If you see everybody else in the black community doing one thing, it's probably not going to be successful. That's my biggest takeaway. Now, there's blacks out there who are doing well, right? Young black lady, she's a nurse or she's a doctor. That's good. You're not going to see a lot of that push in the black community. What you're going to see is a lot of debauchery. If you look on TikTok, you're going to just see mostly that. Whereas on the white side, there's going to be a lot more ingenuity. And the reason why, in my opinion, there's more diversity within the white community than the black community is that if you look at Europe, they had to be more ingenious when it comes to survival, right? Look at Europe. Europe is cold. They have crazy weather patterns. They have all kinds of stuff. And then you look at Africa. It's just really, really hot, but you can survive. You can survive in Africa. The water's there. The food was plenteous. I'm sure. I don't know how much it is now, but in Europe, you're talking about, the cold Alps, or snow. Africa, you don't have to worry about freezing to death. Would you rather live in a cold climate or a hot climate, right? Most people would rather live in a hot climate. Africa doesn't have those crazy weather patterns. So therefore, they have never really had to be that ingenious. Other groups of people will come to Africa and build on their land. Chinese, French, you name it. Russians coming down there. Everybody's coming down there to build within Africa. But, Africans just haven't really had that need. That's why you look at African villages and African society. It's pretty much all the same. They're not building down there. They haven't built, anything down there. Look at the whole continent of Africa is built by the Chinese. All the big skyscrapers and buildings, French, Chinese, other countries, Europeans are coming down there and building down there, and they're not hiring any of the Africans. So when you're in Europe, you're building to survive, right? You cannot survive living out in a mud hut in Europe. Germany, when those places get really cold, you got to build stuff, You look at some of those survival channels, they're pretty freaking crazy. The white ones, white people building, places underground. It's pretty nuts, man. It's pretty crazy how they build. People be building on the ground. Bushcraft, tradecraft, survival skills, that's more of a white thing. It's not really, I mean, you look at black content versus white content, there's a vast majority. When if you go on TikTok and you see like white people, guys, building some insane tree house, a 2-story tree house, or he's building, he cuts down a tree, digs underneath that tree, makes a chimney underground, right? And he's got a living space underneath the ground, like a bed. He actually makes himself a bed, a fireplace. You're not gonna see that in black content. You're never ever gonna see that, right? If you look at the Olympics, all those skill sets, skiing, that's a white thing, right? You have to do that. Like, look at Sweden, look at, some of these countries where, they're swimming and skiing and doing all these incredible feats. The Olympics that's just their thing, right? But down in Africa, you're not going to really see all that stuff. There's a lot more lounging around in African countries compared to Swedish or Norwegian or some of those countries where you have to survive. You're building to survive. That's why they've become so adaptive to wherever they're going. That's why they're always building and leading the world when it comes to all that stuff. And then you look at, Africans versus African Americans, you're not going to see a whole lot of that. It's going to be a lot more dependency. You go to a black community here in America, you're going to have Chinese people, you're going to have Jewish people, you're going to have every group of people out there building within your community. But if you are black and you try to build within their community, that will never, ever, ever, ever happen. And that's the big difference. So if I'm giving advice to a black person, I would say get away from all the black content out there. That space out there isn't going to bode well for you, and you're not going to learn anything from that other than who's at fault in the black community. It's just all of that and nothing else. Or sports or gossip. That stuff, you can't build a community. When blacks say we want to be, Hebrew Israelites say they want to be separate from whites, yeah, that's never going to happen. Because you don't build. I've yet to see any kind of bushcraft, tradecraft, any kind of, crafting channels where they're talking about building something, or, there's a very few, math gurus out there, us, compared to other groups of people, that you need to build a society. You need a lot to build a society. Okay? So that's my thoughts on it, guys. I know I can make another video on it, but that's just my thoughts on it. And I just don't think it's possible to build a society on gossip, basketball, relationship problems, and just all the content you're going to see out there within black space. You're not going to really see much of anything else. That's just not a thing, guys. It's not a thing. And a lot of people have to get away from that crooked society where they're just focusing on 3 topics and nothing else. Imagine trying to build a society off of that. We talk, we're kings and queens. Kings and queens of what? You don't know anything. You were like taken and enslaved by other groups of people who are more powerful than you. So you can't say you're kings and queens of society if you don't even act like it. The debauchery, all that stuff, that's insanity, guys. That's insanity, in my opinion. So that's all I got for you guys today. If you guys want to see me make more content about this thing, I can make another part 2 and go into more detail about it. But hey, you guys let me know what your thoughts on it. I'll talk to you guys later. Love you guys. Peace.